And we are live. Well, I'm live. Alex, you have a little COVID, so you're
Yes,
almost alive.
live. Yes, mostly there. Yes.
It's wonderful to see you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Alex Zablotsky, the managing director of PJ Library. And for those of you who don't know, PJ Library is a large force in the children's publishing industry, amazing act of philanthropy. And I'm lucky, super lucky, to have the managing director right here with me. I would say right here, but I'm in Israel, and you're somewhere in America.
I mean, yes, West Hartford, Connecticut.
And so I'll just mention that I'm Mel Rosenberg, and I am fortunate to be the host of the Children's Literature channel of the New Books Network. And with me is the wonderful Alex Zablotsky. So, Alex, let's start out talking about PJ Library, and then we'll talk a little bit about you, and then we'll talk about the situation of the Jewish people and other minor items.
Sure. Happy to be here.
The floor is yours. The internet is yours.
Thank you. So I'm very happy to be here with you and to talk about PJ Library. PJ Library, we're celebrating our 18th birthday this year. So we were inspired, our founder, Harold Grinspoon, was inspired by Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which has been distributing books originally to low-income families in the United States, but now to millions of households all around the world, just encouraging childhood literacy. And Harold had this, he was sponsoring it locally in Western Massachusetts, and he had the sense, we can support literacy and Jewish literacy and books. And he kind of put it together in his head and said, why don't we do this for the Jewish community? So we, at this point, are sharing Jewish children's books monthly with families in soon to be 40 countries all around the world. Our largest programs are actually in Israel and in the United States, in 7 different languages every month. And we're really proud to be supporting family conversations and identity building around Jewish topics and traditions and values. And it's been 18 years and we're continuing to grow.
Okay, wonderful. So a few words about Harold and his family.
Sure. So Harold is 94 years young. He was born in
Kainain Hora, as the Jews say.
Yes, exactly right. Born outside of Boston and now lives in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. And didn't grow up religious. It didn't have a strong Jewish practice, but loves the Jewish people deeply, and is so proud to be Jewish. And he has really focused his philanthropy. He was successful in real estate, and he's built a sort of real estate company. And his philanthropy is really focused on supporting the Jewish community through PJ Library and supporting families in Jewish literacy. A lot of work focused on Jewish overnight camps and day camps. He really believes in the power of camping through our Life and Legacy program at the foundation, really encouraging communities and individuals to make gifts for afterlife plan gifts, endowment gifts, to make sure that the Jewish community and organizations can be around for a long time. And so really, he's in the office every day with us and really animates our work and really pushes us to continue to keep innovating and expanding and engaging families in new ways, just so the Jewish people can be strengthened.
And is there a younger Grinspoon generation that's taking up the torch?
Yeah, so Harold's daughter-in-law, Winnie Sandler Grinspoon, is the president of the Harold Grinspoon Foundation. Other family members are involved. And so, again, hopefully Harold's around for many years, but we are in good hands with Winnie as well.
Ad mea esrim, as the Jews say.
Amen.
May you be healthy till 120. So, but it's not just giving books to 280,000 families. There's a very interesting deal here. What's the deal?
So for families, it really is. It's a gift. There's no cost to the family, and so we've at this point we're distributing more than 650,000 books every month, and families, all they have to do is indicate that they're raising their children in a Jewish household with Jewish traditions and values, and that every month the book will arrive either in their mailbox in most places, but in some countries they're through their child's classroom, and it's a story. And we have book selection committees all around the world that pick books that are appropriate for families in that community in the language that they speak, and the books include something about a Jewish holiday, a Jewish value, story from Jewish tradition or about Israel. And hopefully it inspires a family conversation and perhaps the question of why don't we build a sukkah? Maybe we should try one this year, right? Or let's do something to mark Shabbat this week, and maybe the families will explore a new tradition that's meaningful for them, or start a conversation. We've had families who receive a book about holidays or traditions like Mabuna, for example, and it triggers a conversation. Oh yes, actually, our grandparents celebrated that because they came from North Africa, and we should try that again, right? So it's just to help inspire the families to build whatever joyful Jewish connections and traditions that are meaningful to them. And then, beyond that, we try and we work locally with partner organizations all around the world, federations, Jewish community centers, synagogues, just so families have opportunities to meet other families and form those social connections that will last hopefully long beyond when we stop mailing books.
Okay, so the families get books for free, but you expect the Jewish communities to participate, if I'm not mistaken.
So what we like to say is that it costs a lot to be this free, right? So we don't charge families, right? It's the stories belong to them as members of the Jewish people, but buying a book, printing a book, mailing it to families, so our data team, it all costs money. So we are very grateful that Herald and the foundation are support about 40 to 45% of our costs. We have other philanthropic supporters that are critical to our work. And then we have our local partners, the federations, and the JCCs, and the synagogues, who also contribute financially to the cost for delivering the books in their communities.
Okay. Do you have any idea? Well, you must. You're the managing director. How much? How much does it cost to get a book into the hands of a Jewish family?
Yeah. So, our operating budget for this year, excluding Israel, just kind of a PJ library outside of Israel, is $36.5 million. So a lot of that goes towards actually buying and shipping of books. A lot of that is our team and all the other things we're doing in that community engagement work, and all the kind of additional family experience elements that we do in terms of storytelling podcasts, and we author stewardship trips to Israel and all sorts of other fun things. But the cost of delivering a book to a family, we've held that constant for our community partners at $40 a year.
$40 a year?
Per child, yes.
For how many books is that?
That's one book a month, so it's 12 books a year.
So $40 for 12 books.
That's right.
Wow, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, which again is compared to you walk into a store or a bookstore, it's a pretty good deal.
Okay, so let's talk about Israel, and then we're going to talk about the non-Jewish community, and its importance here in understanding our culture, our traditions, and sharing these wonderful books that you publish. Yeah. So I live in Israel, where we have over 7 million Jewish people, religious, not religious, semi-religious, Jews who pray every day and keep kosher, and Jews who never keep kosher and don't pray at all. And we have a community of almost 2 million Arabs who read in Arabic. And in Israel, it's a kind of an irony. You have one of the biggest philanthropic organizations sending books in Arabic to children.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, again, coming back to Harold and his genius, right, of identifying opportunities and investing in them and scaling them. So seeing that PJ Library was successful in the United States and in Canada, said, okay, where else are there Jewish people in the world that might benefit from this program, that might need Jewish books in the home? And so he looked to Israel, and it was a happy accident that books are just too big to fit in mailboxes in Israel. The dimensions don't work. And people weren't going to go to the post office in Israel and wait in line to pick up their package every month. That seemed too tall of a task. So it was the impetus for what's become a really beautiful, more than decade-long partnership with the Israeli Ministry of Education, whereby our foundation and the Ministry of Education partner to deliver books monthly through classrooms in preschools, kindergartens in Israel. And as part of that, another amazing output was the ministry is responsible for all Israeli children, Jewish children, Arab children. So there was no way to partner with them without also offering Arabic language books for Arabic speaking classrooms. And so now we are distributing, I think, 400,000 books in Hebrew every month. We've expanded that down to daycare networks for littler kids and up into grades 1 and 2. And also nearly 200,000 books in Arabic to all the Arabic speaking classrooms in Israel through the Ministry of Education. So it's we have a sister foundation in Israel. They have a team of amazing colleagues that pick those books and work with the educators, the Ministry of Education to make that happen. And it's really enhanced the entire kind of PJ Library ecosystem, again, where Harold, the love of the Jewish people and the love for Israel and the centrality of having a strong Israel, right, for the Jewish people, that means investing in all of the next generation of Israelis, be they Jewish or Arab.
So this is really incredible, and I'm just, I'm thinking there's some misguided people that are donating money for books for Palestine. I myself donated 100 books back in the day, and I think that money goes to the Hamas. And actually, what people should do who want really good quality books in Arabic for Palestinian children is send us the money for Sifriyat Pijamot. The books in, I'm going to say something and then you're going to correct me. The books in America and the diaspora are mostly about Jewish culture, Jewish holidays, Hanukkah, Passover, Shabbat, Jewish lore. Okay, but here in Israel, the kids actually breathe and live Jewish holidays and culture. So, and the books for Arab children are not about Jewish holidays. So here in Israel, what are the books about? I know, but I want you to tell us.
Sure, it's a great question. So we have, as in all our programs around the world, we have book selection committees of experts, of educators and child psychologists and literary experts, authors who know the audience that they're selecting books for, and they find the appropriate books for that audience. And yes, the lineups for PJ Library in North America look different than the lineups for Sifriyat Pijama in Israel or for Maktabat al-Funus in Israel. The Sifriyat Pijama and Maktabat al-Funus lineups, Hebrew and Arabic lineups, actually have more in common than they do with the kind of diaspora lineups. You're right. So our framework outside of Israel has three main pillars. It's Jewish values, Jewish narratives, and Jewish cycles, right? The holidays and life cycle moments. In Israel, it's really more. It's again not focused on what is Rosh Hashanah, what is Hanukkah, because those are the national holidays. It's focused on universal values or Jewish values. It's focused on Israel specific, Israeli identity and Israeli culture. And it's very much more focused on just literacy overall, right? It's encouraging families to read, to children to learn how to read, less on Jewish literacy, more on general literacy in the context of a classroom.
Some of the books that you wonderfully distribute for free in Israel are classic universal picture books that are translated into Hebrew and made available freely. That is remarkable. What about the books in Arabic? They're not about Jewish holidays. What are they about?
No, they're not about Jewish holidays. Those are also about universal values, and that's why the Hebrew lineup and the Arabic lineup oftentimes overlap in terms of the content they're selecting. The universal values, again, it could be Israeli culture, it could be universal values, it could be.
Alex, I want to stop and talk about the universal values for a moment.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. When we talk about universal values, Jewish people, what do we talk about? The first thing is what we say in Yiddish, zu sein ein Mensch, right? Liot ben Adam.
Be a good person. That's right.
To be a good person. And these values began with the Bible, and they've crossed over into Western religion, into Christianity and Islam, right? These are universal values. We can maybe take a little credit for being the people who got it going. But, be a good person, be kind to your fellow man. If you're a dinosaur in first grade, you don't eat your classmates. These are values that we share with our community, the Israeli community, the Arab community living in Israel. And after the war is over, maybe we will actually be able to share some books with universal values in Gaza. This is my personal dream. But so let's go back now. So I have a major question I want to ask.
Yeah.
I grew up in Canada. People assumed that I had horns. People assume that I killed Jesus. People assume that all Jews are bad, and it's been over 50 years, and it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism is growing. People hate the Jews.
Yeah.
So my general question is, you're doing such wonderful work, sharing Jewish culture, Jewish history, Jewish values, universal values. Shouldn't PJ now reconsider that instead of sending out books only to Jewish kids, we should be sending out books to all the kids in America who want to learn more about the Jewish people? Maybe they will actually end up loving us.
Yeah, it's been particularly, I would say it's interesting working with someone like Harold, who again is 94 years old and can say firsthand what the news headlines were, right? What it was like to live in the 1930s, right? The 1940s. Right? He recalls the anti-Semitism of those moments. And it hasn't gone away, right? Like, I think that's part of the scariness of the last month, is it was so close to the surface. It didn't take much for all of a sudden it to burst out into the open again. It's something we hear from subscriber families. We're in touch every month with 200,000 households in the US and Canada, and we hear from them, and they're scared. And it's painful. It's really difficult. And a lot of what we hear is that, but look, for many, their children are the only Jewish child in their classroom, right, in their public school classroom, or they live in a neighborhood where they're the only Jewish family. And what does it look like? How do they, right, are proudly Jewish? How do they explain? How do you encourage what you said? Like, how do you encourage everyone to not hate, not fear, but to
let me ask you the following question.
I'll say, like, I think so. Books are a really powerful way to do that. Like, I guess I'm agreeing with you that I think it's books, and children's books in particular are.
I want you to agree with me more, because I'm sitting here in Israel.
Yeah.
And I'm losing my cool as we go along.
Yeah.
And I could say, well, I've been telling people for 50 years that North America is a very anti-Semitic place. The world is an anti-Semitic place. And people would say, oh, no, you grew up in the 50s. I say, no, and I'm right. And that doesn't help me at all.
Right.
That doesn't help me at all. But I want to ask you, you're the managing director of this wonderful, wonderful philanthropic organization that shares all the beautiful things of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, here and in Israel and among our Arab community.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, you talked about universal values, okay? What is a universal value that we teach as Jews, as Christians, as Muslims, universal values, that isn't the Jewish value? They're all the same.
And universal, going back to that question, universal might be the wrong way of saying it. It's they're shared values, right? That you could look at them like a value that we all share, or a value that in our particular context, right here, like, right, in a lot of our books, we put in the first page, like, here's the passage from the Bible, or from our texts, right, in terms of the Talmud. Like, where's this come from? Where's this grounded from in our tradition? Other traditions have places where they've, right, codified it, and we share them. Right, they're not universal. They're not like out in the ether, not tethered to anything, but they're common, right? They're shared human. One of the books we've translated the most is Bear Feels Sick, right, which is it's a wonderful book. It's like, okay, take care of your friend when they're not feeling well. We can all identify with that. And I think those are really important to find our own connection to those, and understand that we have other traditions and communities have connections too. But there's also something about sending particularly Jewish books. Say, this is a positive Jewish narrative about what it's like to be a Jewish person today, or historically, or here's understanding why. Right? Why at a certain point in time, right? Why are Jews lighting, chanukiot in their windows or the menorahs? And they're like, why? Where's that coming from? What's the story here? And I think it's important both for Jewish families to have those those narratives, so we can be telling them in our own households and having Jewish conversations and having families have build that muscle and that resiliency of knowing how to parents talk to their children about things, positive, joyful things, so that when they have to talk about the negative, scary things of anti-Semitism and hate, they're already having those conversations, and the family also has the joyful connections to our tradition to help them bounce back from those. And that's our mission, our organization, our program, to share those stories with that audience. 100% agree that it would be wonderful for more of those narratives to be shared in the broader audiences in public schools and libraries, to general, wherever people are getting their children's books. And that's why we are, I'm very proud of the work that we're doing, working with authors and with publishers to just encourage more Jewish stories to be published and distributed in the general trade. I don't know, it's not for, at this moment, it's not for us to pick up distributing to the entire, right, American or Canadian population, but working to make sure that authors and illustrators who want to tell Jewish stories and illustrate Jewish stories feel confident and are supported, coached and financially, right, to incentivize to do that, put them out into the world, and encouraging publishers to look at Jewish stories as these should be part of your diversity agenda, in terms of making sure that these narratives are included, not just a Hanukkah story, but all more Jewish narratives, so people can understand better what it is.
Alex, yeah. So I'm with you, and there's nothing like a good picture book to share friendship and warmth and humanity.
Right.
And I'm betting you that there are over 100 million families in the States right now that if there were a mechanism to bring them books about Jewish values and Jewish customs and Jewish holidays, they would want to share those books with their family.
Yeah.
So we have to work on a way to do that.
Right. And the good news is that there are mechanisms to get books, right? There are whole distribution and marketing wings of publishing agencies to get books into libraries.
But I mean, if you're a non-Jewish family in Arkansas, sure, right, you can't get the books for free.
Not from PJ Library, no, but we make sure are in their public library and in their classrooms, and making sure that the stories are.
That's good, but I want to take this one step further. Sure. If there are some philanthropists who love the Jewish people, and they should love the Jewish people, okay, and they want to bring to a community, a Christian community. Alex, I'm 72 years old, okay. Jewish people generally think that Jesus was a rabbi. They don't think that he was the son of God, but he was Jewish. He had a circumcision. He had a bar mitzvah. He spoke Hebrew and Aramaic. His mom was Jewish. And the values that Christianity shares of being a good human being are the same values. The traditions are different. We're very similar people. And I think that we have to find a Harold Greenspoons from the non-Jewish community who want, in communities in America, to bring your wonderful, marvelous books, okay, for free into the hands of young children, so they will have a better understanding of the Jewish people. And when they have the Jewish kid in school, who's the only Jewish kid, they won't say to him, "You're a dirty Jew, you killed Jesus, you bomb innocent people." That's terrible. So it has to come from both directions. We have to educate our people, but we also have to educate with love the world and say, look, all of the good, upstanding morals of the Western world started with Judaism. I'm sorry.
Well, I would say, listen, I think in the same way that we were inspired by Dolly Parton's Imagination Library and the Dollywood Foundation, and the team there has been incredibly generous with us over the years, and they're wonderful colleagues. More than happy to pass that forward. If anyone is interested in a conversation about what that might look like, please be in touch with us, and we're happy to have that conversation and explore it. And I would also say, just as a note, that of the more than 700 titles that we've distributed over our 18 years, we've only published maybe 45 of them. The vast majority, we've purchased the books from all the publishers, the large, small.
Yeah, but Alex, you're the ones who give them away for free.
Right, but all I'm saying is, like, those books are available. They're there to be purchased, additional copies, and distributed. We don't have a monopoly on this content or on this on the United States Postal
I'll tell you something. The first 5 families that approach you
Yeah.
and say, Alex, we're not Jewish, but we want our children to learn more about Jewish values, traditions. Okay, I will pay you $40 each for those families to get the year subscription for free of your wonderful books. How's that?
So yeah, happy to have the conversation with if that person steps forward. We would never say no to a conversation.
Okay, great.
I think in
So
terms of it's we also at the moment estimate that we're serving about 30% of the Jewish households in the United States and Canada. So it means
yeah,
there's lots from our community that we want to make sure we're reaching also, and they're not saying no, but it's a matter of there's only so many hours in the day, so we have to make sure that we're trying to do as much good as we can with those
I will
hours.
help you. I will pay the
Wonderful.
$200 for each child, and I will lick the stamps.
Good.
Okay, so let's now move on because so many of our audience.
Yeah,
Are you having fun?
it's great. Yeah.
Okay, great. So now people want to learn about how to become a writer for PJ Library. How you select. I want to concentrate on picture books because that's
Sure.
my great passion. How do you select the books? And do you have to be a Jewish writer? How does it work?
Yeah. Happy to focus on picture books. I'll just put a quick plug that we do offer books up through middle grade. So 4 books through middle grade is our kind of focus area. So you do not have to be Jewish. Anyone who's telling or illustrating a Jewish story, that's what we're looking for. And again, we've got our framework with our various, make sure we're offering a well-rounded kind of lineup of Jewish narratives. And so we're always looking for, to fill those different gaps for different ages, for offering an increasingly diverse lineup in terms of representing different Jewish practice, in terms of different Jewish communities, stories from different parts of the Jewish world. So we love some of the classics, and we'll schedule them again and again, but we're constantly looking for both new stories and new storytellers. So in terms of we have a submission portal on our website, and I promise you, even though it's going to take a minute, we do read every single submission. It can be a Word document manuscript. We're not looking for public, fully packaged books. We're happy to interact with authors or agents at the manuscript stage and offer feedback and suggestions or guidance in terms of which publishers to approach or ways to evolve that story to get it to a place where it's publishable. We have various webinars and offerings. We offer emerging authors, published authors to help them identify Jewish stories to write or to connect with others in a cohort experience, and to help again, we're trying to incentivize. We have financial awards, and we are trying to encourage folks to take the time to write Jewish stories, because again, we're looking constantly to be growing the pool of books that we can select from. So we're offering families the new and the best. That means back in classics, but we want to make sure we're telling new stories too, especially now that we've expanded to so many markets around the world. At the moment, we're still doing a lot of translating from English and Hebrew into Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Ukrainian, German, but a call for those writing in those languages too. We'd love to be sending books that are written in the original German or the original Spanish, and not just translating from the other wonderful books we have at our disposal.
That's wonderful. So you're the managing director, so I know you can answer this question. A few statistics.
Yeah.
How many submissions do you get, let's say, a month from authors?
A month, we get about 1,000 a year. So I don't know, divide that by 12. And
okay, 1,000 a year. And how many books do you publish?
So we publish ourselves, or we acquire a book and actually publish it ourselves, just a handful a year. In terms of we select for our core picture book lineup, 99 titles a year. So we have 9 age bands, from age, infants all the way up through age 8. So each age band gets its own book each month. We do that for 11 months, and then in the 12th month we send a special gift. So it's 99. We need 99 unique titles in English every year.
What the math isn't adding up for me, Alex.
So
you get only 1,000 submissions a year. 1,000 a year. So you have the most incredible odds of getting published of anybody that I've ever talked to.
No, so the lineup isn't solely from what submission. Those are brand new submissions, almost mostly manuscripts that haven't been published yet. We also look back at what we, the 700 books we've distributed in years past, and they'll come back and they'll show up in the lineup again.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
but let's say I want to give hope to authors. So
Very,
out of the 1,000 submissions,
yeah.
how many, and the regular odds are less than 1 out of 1,000. So anything bigger than 1 is great. So what is your number out of 1,000 submissions?
That's the neighborhood that we're sitting in.
1 out of 1,000.
Yeah, and it's not one out of 1,000, but it's we receive a really high volume of manuscripts, and not all of them are ready yet to be published. Many of them are wonderful ideas, and we'll give feedback, and then they'll evolve. In terms of the ones that we receive that are ready to, either the book is selected in the lineup or it's ready to go at that moment. Yeah, it's a smaller number per year. It's probably in the 10 to 20.
So let's
It doesn't mean that, like, and I think that probably is you and the folks watching this probably know it takes many years before you have something in a Word document when you hold the book. And sometimes it doesn't happen that first moment, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be continue to work on and evolve.
You should know that better than me. In my case, it took a lifetime, right? My first book came out here this year, and I was and I just had my Yom Huledet 2 days ago. So it can take 72 years.
Yeah. It's never too late.
No, there's always hope. And even the 1 in 1,000. But here is what people are going to say. And this is that you guys decide what Jewish values are, what is a good book. Here in Israel, for example, if your book is snatched up by Sifriyat Pijamot, wow, that's huge. The Ministry of Education distributes 100,000 books. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And in America, people have told me, well, submit to PJ if they're interested. Speak to me.
Yeah.
So you guys are more than just readers of books. You also are people who decide what kind of Jewish material is going to get published for kids. And that's a little bit, it's a responsibility.
Yeah, it's something we don't take lightly. We talk about it internally, and we want to make sure we're doing as good a job as we can. Again, offering a well-rounded lineup in terms of the spectrum of values and holidays and narratives that we're showcasing, in terms of the art, the styles of art that we're including in the lineup, that the authors we're working with, the publishers we're working with. We try and be a good actor in the system, but yeah, I think that's the flip side of having been able to have the reach that we've been able to accomplish. That yes, when we're purchasing a picture book for our lineup, usually we're purchasing at the moment somewhere between 20 and 30,000 copies of that book. So we're aware of that dynamic, and we again I think are trying to think about the various things and try and make the best decisions we can, mindful of that.
No, I mean, it's great. So like a regular print run for a small publisher will be a few thousand, 8 or 10,000 books.
Yeah.
And you guys, when you make that 1 in 1,000 choice, bang, 30,000 copies.
Hey.
It's actually wonderful. And I think that I'm intensely jealous of what you guys are doing. And I really think it's wonderful, and I can't wait to see how this develops over the years. Yeah. In Israel, because the books are they're not about Jewish holidays, but there will be some Jewish aspect in some of the books.
Yeah, right.
But in America, if you're an Israeli, which I am, proud Israeli, and you look at the books that are being published in America by PJ, they are to an extent message driven, and that's okay. And I'm wondering, because you can always have a story like in Israel, right, and then add in the back matter something, like, are you open? I'm beating around the bush. Are you open to stories that don't have Hanukkah, don't have a Yarmulke, don't have a Sabbath, a Jewish rabbi, um, stories about universal values that can be loved by Jewish children and other children. Robert Munch has a terrific book, and the kids have skull caps.
Mhm.
It's obviously Jewish kids. It's a story about the red-haired guy, if I'm not mistaken. And
Mhm.
Munch is not Jewish, and as far as I know, and there's nothing about Judaism in the story, but the kids have skull caps. Where
Yeah.
does it become like if you see a great story?
What makes a Jewish book, right? Like, what's the that's the question, right? Like,
Yeah,
what makes a
sorry,
book
it took me
Yeah,
7 minutes to ask that.
yeah, yeah. It could be any number of things, and I think um, right, we try and strike the right balance, and we're constantly, we survey families after every book we send out to get their feedback. We rate everybody. We're trying constantly to calibrate, right, what the right balance is in the lineup, and that's the great benefit, the luxury that we have that I'm grateful for, that we send a book every single month, right? So you look at the course of a year, okay, you have one like this and two like that and one here. So it's about the full experience of a family, right? We look at it over a year, over 3 years, over maybe 9 years in the program, 12 years in the program. Like, what's the full body of books? What's the full bookshelf look like, right? So you don't ask me one particular book to hold the entirety of, right? Like, was this, but what makes a book Jewish? So yeah, sometimes it is explicit. Like, this book is about Hanukkah. We're going to help really understand either the story of Hanukkah or a story that takes place on Hanukkah, an Isaac Bashevis Singer story about a parakeet named Dreidel that we just sent out, right? Like, okay, fine. That's a Jewish book. There could be, like we said, a value that it's a shared value, isn't an exclusively Jewish value, but we're going to ground it in Jewish tradition where you can find it from. Here's the Hebrew terminology to help describe. Here's why when you are, right, taking care of the environment, that's a Jewish act, right? Not just a global or universal act. And there are some books because it's about a Jewish individual, right? It's about inventing the polio vaccine and Jonas Salk, and like that's a Jewish story because there's a Jewish person, right? It existed, or it's or it could be the author is Jewish and it's there and it's Jewish informs the book, right? It's in the back matter or it's in the forward. But for us, it's less about an individual book and more in terms of, like, for us delivering an experience for the family that they have various entry points into having a conversation about something meaningful about being Jewish to that family. Because again, that's the flip side for us. We're asking one book, we're going to select it for 30,000 kids. It's hard to find one piece of content that resonates for 30,000 people, right? So we really, from our kind of core model, assumes, like, again, let's look at the full bookshelf when they're done, and hopefully enough of those books have become like treasured favorites that they've triggered conversations that are really meaningful.
Okay, so I have now a bunch of quick questions.
Go for it.
What is the most loved picture book that PJ Library has done?
Yeah, I don't
Or
want to try and
supported?
get it, but that depends on who you ask. Every person has their own, right?
I'm asking you, Alex.
One of my favorites, um, I'll give you two answers. One, at the moment, there's a book called Purim, which is about cats celebrating the holiday of Purim. That even though it's not Purim time right now, my daughter continues. She's 4. She insists on continuing reading that one. So that's a favorite right now because I sit down with her. I get to read it every day about the cats and Purim. But I go back to one of the earliest books that my son, who was 7 now, when he first got from the program, is a book called Todah, which is Hebrew for thank you. And it's just a really sweet board book about saying thank you and being appreciative. And it was one of the first books I sat and read with him when he was an infant, right? It is a small kid, and it makes me feel good, right? I like that book personally. You ask Harold, his favorite, he loves the Schmutzy family. It's about a family who all week is a huge mess, and then Shabbat comes and they get clean, and he loves the art and he loves so everyone has their favorites. And I will tell you, we're oftentimes surprised. The committee thinks the book is an A+ book, and families are like, "Nah, it's fine." And then other books, the committee says, "Okay, we'll send it." And families are like, "We love this one," right? And so there's a balance too, because everyone has their favorite.
Look, if publishers knew in advance.
Right. So it's the same. Yeah.
So okay, so let's give some advice to our authors. PJ Library is always open for submissions. The submission process is easy.
Yep.
It's anonymous,
Yep.
and people should submit. Jewish authors, non-Jewish authors should definitely submit
Yep.
because the upside is wonderful, and we're getting rejected up most of the time anyway, so it's okay. But I want you to give some insider information,
Yeah.
Alex. Like, what are you guys looking for? Are you
Yeah.
really looking for more Hanukkah stories? You want a Tu B'Shvat story? Well, give us some
Yeah.
something to work on here.
So if I had my choice of holidays, it would probably not be Hanukkah. Because if you look at the books that trade publishers are publishing, Hanukkah's covered, Passover is pretty good, Rosh Hashanah to an extent. So the other holidays, right? The ones that there's, a great book about the holiday of Shavuot, for example, be wonderful, right? I would say that I think we are really looking for board books at the moment. Obviously, always picture books, but having board books that have again that strong Jewish content, right? That they're going to help that parent have a Jewish moment with their child. It's hard to do in 30 words, but that's something we're looking for. Also, I think for older ages, 7 and 8, approaching middle grade, but still picture book format. We're looking for, those are the areas where we're looking for more there. And Israel narratives, honestly, is a big one for us. I think we have increased the volume of books that we're translating from Sifrei Pajama, right, from Hebrew into English, and a lot of those work beautifully. But more narratives about Israelis, about living in Israel today, in terms of that are authentically Israeli, that are written for American or a non-Israeli audience. Typically, April every year around Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day, we try and have every book in the lineup be focused on Israel, but Israel is a core part of our framework, and having, developing connections between Jewish families outside of Israel and to Israel in whatever way works for them, right? In terms of but having a connection, right? Some kind of emotional pull to Israel, we think is a core part of being Jewish. So more Israeli narratives is also something we're looking for.
That's wonderful. And looking over your own CV, you've been involved all the time in things that are involved with education and giving. Is this your favorite position? Do you see it as a mission?
Yeah, I think when I was in an
You
undergrad.
have an MBA. You could be doing other
Yeah,
things.
yeah, I do. But at my undergrad, I major studied psychology and English, and when I graduated, I was living in New York, trying to get a job in publishing. Books has always been right a love, and the English major happenings. I was taking up English courses anyway. I might as well get the major because I was going to be taking them anyway. And it didn't work. I ended up going to get my MBA in Israel. I ended up working in research for a while, but through this good fortune, I ended up in an office full of books. So it really is. It's been a great landing spot for me.
So this is a good time to say thank you. You, despite your small interaction with COVID, which I hope will end soon, and
Yes,
despite the horrific situation now for Jews all over, I am really, really grateful that you've spent these wonderful 45 minutes with me and my audience. Is there anything I haven't asked you?
Oh, I think we've covered it. I think we are right. We are constantly looking for new stories and expanding our network of creatives to work with. I think you gave a plug that it does cost a lot to be this free. So we're also looking at always for philanthropic partners to keep expanding our work. And it's just wonderful to be in conversation about the book side of things, which is wonderful.
So, Alex Zablotsky, I want to thank you, Nicola Lev, which means from my whole heart, for such a wonderful, candid interview. We're going to say goodbye to everybody, and then you'll leave and come back so we can have a little tete-a-tete, because I'm eager to talk about a few things not public. And I'll just remind people that I'm Mel Rosenberg, and I'm the, what am I? You see, I have to remind myself, and I don't have COVID. I'm the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network, and I've been speaking to the one and only Alex Zablotsky, the managing director of PJ, a wonderful organization.
Thank you. It was
Yishar
wonderful.
koach. Yishar koach.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Come back. Alex, are you with me?
So Mel, yes, I'm with you.
אני רוצה להגיד